Okay, I want you to listen very carefully to me when I say put down the fucking gun. Listen, I get it. You hated the movie as much as I did. But I need to review it, so can you put the fucking gun down so I can begin? Okay, that's good. That's good. Now you think about what you've done. Hello and welcome to Faulty Family Films, where it's fine for kids is considered an insult. Now it's Halloween, and as you can see, we're off to a bit of a bad start, and it's not surprising, because this may be the worst film I've ever seen. Which is impressive given some of the things I've reviewed, like The Last Airbender, Invisible Mom, the SpongeBob movie, the Scooby-Doo prequels, Epic, and the Yogi Bear movie. This movie is like a kids' film's version of The Room. So at the end of this movie, you wish you'd had your brains blown out. Hence the issue with my right hand. The Ghost Club is a 2003 film from director Ralph E. Portillo, whose filmography as a producer and director is a mix of low-budget movies from both the family-friendly genre to the horror genre. Though unlike Fred Olen Ray, he doesn't seem to go for the more pornographic side of low-budget films. So with movies like Undercover Kids, Fever Lake, and Bloody Murder, Bloody Murder! Bloody Murder! You can bet that this won't be anything better as we look at The Ghost Club. Funny how the production company is the same thing I imagine was started when this movie was finished. We open on a visual representation of the movie itself and the audience watching it, as we see people who surely have better things to do confusingly staring at the spectacle in front of them. But it does seem like the Golden Girls are enjoying the Rick Astley tribute act. Meanwhile, we have stereotype of kids' films number 1, The Scared Explorer, Carrie, wandering around an empty house.
The house has fallen into disrepair and is scheduled for destruction. Today, I came alone.
Also, it's 2003 and I'm still using a tape-based voice recorder. Later, I'll go home and use my Walkman while posting to MySpace. Oh, were we done with that scene movie? Because it felt like you were building to something. Now let me just fast forward this to where something's actually happening.
Hi, Archie. What have you been doing? I've been checking out the festival. How is it? Great. I just got back and I dropped off all the stuff I want.
Fortunately, I lost my acting ability and I have to appear in this movie for 2 scenes before disappearing completely.
A giant foam finger, 4 posters, and a purple teddy bear. A purple teddy bear?
Movie felt like you were building something there again. Or was that it? Was that the punchline to your joke? Oh god, it was, wasn't it? That was the punchline to a joke. I said, no, put it down. The red-haired boy, known as Chris, or stereotype number 2, the skeptic, as I like to call him, and the other boy run into stereotype number 3.
Chris! Why don't you guys watch where you're going?
The girly princess, complete with matching toddlers and tiaras outfit. Who must have been riding her bike side saddle since both her feet are off to the side when she somehow runs into Chris. Meanwhile, our 4th and final stereotype, the nerd, who sounds like the kid from The Wizard, is trying to finish his invention.
This is the perfect place to test my newest invention.
You know, once this shot ends. Quickly back with Carrie, she's scared out of the house by a cat making noise, but in reality, Michael Myers is just happy that she's now out of his house. It isn't Halloween yet. And yet another long shot. Did this director not know the word cut? Back with White and Nerdy.
I know in my heart they think I'm white and nerdy. Think I'm just too white and nerdy. Think I'm just too white and nerdy.
This sensor uses laser beams to count thermal entities. It'll tell us precisely how many people are in a given area in mere seconds.
Along with every warm-blooded animal, car driving about, and anything else that produces heat. Seriously, who gave you this invention? The bowler hat guy?
Grab the boy and bring him!
Well, it's just that there's a million people over there, and I have little arms. I'm just not so sure how well this plan was thought through.
We see Carrie and Natalie meet up, which leads to nothing, which you may by this point realise is how a lot of these scenes end. before all four of our main characters for the movie finally meet up.
Hey, Carrie. Hey, Alex, what's up?
Jesus, more hobbly-hoys.
Also, tiny side note, this actress is the only black named character in the entire movie. She's also only in this one scene. So, yeah, good job, movie. But now it's time for a dive so fake it makes the Assassin's Creed's leap of faith look realistic. Meanwhile, three of the most gullible reporters ever talk to our obvious bad guy for the movie.
I couldn't think of a better place to build our new golf course and country club.
We've heard rumors that Procter Industries actually pressured some of the local business owners into selling their shops just to make room for the resort.
That's ridiculous.
Oh sure, let's just trust you completely instead of investigating these rumors. Just like how we left that whole Watergate story alone. I'm sure it wasn't anything important. Moving on, we go to the set of the least realistic diner ever.
Did I ever tell you about the time that I met the Queen? She came here in 1941, came right here to this town, and I met her.
She also sent me an email from Nigeria about making me a very wealthy man. Mr. Proctor and his evil henchmen appear, and despite being 2 decades late, start us off on our actual plot.
Fine, I'll pay the $100, no big deal.
Actually, with late fees, fines, penalties, and interest, the total now due is closer to $300,000.
What?
Later on, what I say now will make sense. They could have ended the movie and the plot right here, right now, and have had no problems whatsoever. But for now, let's talk about why all this is stupid. Why wasn't she informed of this first instead of Proctor? Why is an IRS agent reporting directly to someone who isn't his boss and quite obviously acting illegally? Why did he say that the store would be auctioned off by a bank who would have no financial ties to it when it should be the IRS themselves dealing with it? Why is the daughter of someone who underpaid his taxes being told she has to pay when she has no financial connection to him whatsoever? And finally, why has it taken them this long to come up with it when taxes are probably the most looked upon and efficient governmental system? In other words, movie, if you'd like to give your plot less holes than Swiss cheese, I'd greatly appreciate it. With Carrie, she's still on the search for some kind of personality.
What's with him anyways? Every time I talk to him, he gets all stuttery and won't say anything back.
The search, as you can see, is not going well. Whilst elsewhere, the nerdy kid is coming out of the closet.
Ah! Jesse, what are you doing here? You scared me half to death. I'm hiding out.
Well, obviously, he must have been looking for his real voice, because that one is obviously dubbed.
Oh, I just,
Also, for some reason, the scene ends like this.
It's fried chicken.
I see your point.
You are all weirdos.
Being the tactful person she is, the kid's mother carefully tells them about what's happening and what their options are.
Well, I still have that job offer at Mr. Travis's company, but we'd have to move to Tyler.
Where's that?
It's out near Hunter.
Are all the places near you named after upper-class white males? There is Zachary, maybe a Tarquin. The kids whine about having to stay at their grandma's place because it's the closest to a personality they'll ever get before this line comes up.
I'm staying here.
What? How is that fair?
He's older, and he can take care of himself.
Looking at that bowl cut, it's something I imagine he's used to. We then see all the kids being dropped off at Grandma Lenny's house, who looks oddly familiar.
What do you think?
Where are his eyes?
He was blinded by the accident, so I removed his eyeballs and put them where his testicles used to be.
Where they'll be staying for the 3 weeks that Carrie and Chris's mom will be gone. And yes, this film is supposed to take place over 3 weeks, despite the fact that the editing and everything else makes it look like it's just a couple of days. As we move on to another oddly familiar scene.
I don't know what I'm gonna do, Mom. I think I'm gonna lose Dad's shop. I mean, John Proctor, he's not giving me any choice. He's got the bank on his side.
Everything goes wrong at once. Nobody wants to help me, and I'm dying.
You're not dying, Mom.
I got the results of the test back. I definitely have breast cancer.
Moving on, we learn about the quote-unquote ghost for the movie.
What are you reading?
Are you kidding? I've seen better dubbing on episodes of Monkey than this. We learn that the ghost is of a woman who died on the way back to her daughter while carrying a birthday present, due to a heavy storm that came down. Though once again, I have a few questions. Why didn't this woman have some kind of vehicle, like a bike or something, to get herself from work to home, instead of, as the film shows us, her running on foot? And why were they living in what appears to be a rundown shack out in the middle of nowhere and yet look perfectly fine and healthy? Why is there nothing to follow up this ghost story, like sightings or any strange things happening? And finally, if there was only one other person who knew about the present, then how was the story passed on? I mean, for fuck's sake, even groundskeeper Willie's stories have better continuity.
All we wanted were hats with a wee light on top. Then one day the mine collapsed. No one made it out alive. Not even Willie.
So with nothing but a literal ghost story, the four kids decide to try and capture the ghost. And yep, there's that gun to the temple again. You do realise, right hand, the more times you do this, the longer it's going to take me to review it, right? The kids discuss rebuilding a fort that's apparently in the forest to allow them a place to work out of. While I'm not sure the nerdy kid actually knows he's in a movie anymore.
Jesse? Huh, what? Do you want to rebuild a fort? Sure, fine, whatever.
We move on to the office of Mr. Proctor, cooking up more evil plans. And I swear to God, I actually expect him to be singing this.
I'm so happy with my evil plan.
Also, I'm amazed to find that he has almost as crappy an office as the lawyer did in Invisible Mom 2. At least he seems to be able to afford windows.
But now we have to find out who else she's meeting with. And how are we going to do that? I know. She left her kids in charge of the shop, right? And don't all moms leave their kids a list of where they're going to be?
Well, given that you somehow managed to find out who she was meeting with the first time, why don't you just do that again? Do you honestly expect she's going to leave a set list with every person she's possibly meeting with, instead of just the number to ring her on a mobile, or the number for the hotel she's staying at? Meanwhile, the cast of Forest Warrior get to work fixing up their fort in a montage that includes a scene that's only missing the wah-wah sound effect.
I brought you some iced tea.
Which is then followed up by a scene that looks like the nerdy kid is trying to let out a fart carefully on the chair he's sitting on.
Computer, find a telephone number for Proctor John.
Before we get literally the most useless scene ever.
Hey, Carrie, come here, look. Chris, come here. You should see this.
What the hell is that?
Which then leads into Natalie hacking Mr. Proctor's computer.
She's about to hack into Proctor's computer.
How do you know all this stuff? A good spy never tells. Computer, find password.
And here you may have thought that fake hacking in movies ended in the 90s. Oh no, we just found a nice snug little place in low-budget kids' movies. Especially since the device that I'm guessing is meant to be a portable internet connection of some sort isn't plugged in, especially in this shot, along with the fact that all she's doing is tapping keys randomly. And then, of course, there's the final corn nugget on this shit Sunday. That she's obviously using an Apple computer, and yet the screen is one from a Windows desktop. Well done, movie. You've achieved low-budget nirvana. The kids are scared back to the house by the wind.
It's Carolyn. It's the Brindle Banshee. It's the ghost.
Before Carrie goes to try and talk to the ghost for the second time in the movie.
Jesse's making this really cool invention called the Ghost Catcher 5000.
Ghost Catcher? I don't know, movie. That sounds awfully close to a non-copyright infringing item to me. Sure hope there's nothing else in this movie that might make me think that you were plagiarizing.
As it detects energy, the lights blink quicker and the beeping speeds up.
Wow, Egon really will come a long way from being a little kid. And to think, one day this guy will save the world.
You couldn't have come up with something a little more less stupid?
Well, the writer certainly hasn't been trying, so I don't know why you'd expect it of anyone else. They tried testing the device, though I think this is actually secretly the nerdy kid's way of trying to bump off Chris so that he can date his sister. Before we get another item that gets to join the one scene only club. The buggy from the horribly photoshopped box cover, which for some reason includes a cat who isn't even in the movie. Though from the look on its face, it's as surprised by that as I am. Natalie continues to play hacker while we cut to Carrie and the nerdy kid who are now back in town.
Well, I guess we head back to Grandma's. What? Come on, it's only a few miles.
That's funny because I remember at the beginning of the movie you saying,
Carrie, it's just outside of town.
Exactly, outside of town. Natalie lives in town.
So it's good to know, movie, that you can't even keep that one brief bit of continuity. Tell you one more time, you do it again, I will take that away from you.
He's got a firewall set up. I can't read his files. Not even with the best decrypting software. Unless... Unless what?
You expected an actual response. Mr. Proctor and Weeks get the most obvious list in the world from the shop, while it appears that Chris has super speed given that he's able to go from Grandma's house back to town in a matter of minutes. How do I know it's a matter of minutes? Because they show Mr. Proctor coming back to his office, despite having been drenched by Carrie in a previous scene after he left the shop.
Space is warped and time is bendable.
And speaking of warped reality, Chris uses a walkie-talkie with Natalie, who is meant to be miles away, despite the fact we never see her use one during the scene. It's like this whole film is just becoming a steep slope of stupid. Days, or possibly weeks later, since no time frame is ever made clear, the group of kids decide to sneak out into the forest to capture the ghost, who at this point we haven't seen, heard, or had really anything happen with. And I'll remind you, we are now an hour into an hour and 20-minute long movie. I'm actually starting to think that the tagline of the box, of it being a new generation of Ghostbusters, might be a whole load of crap. Once they're inside the supposedly haunted cabin, the quietest ghost encounter ever happens.
It's been too long. I'm going in.
What happened? I saw something. I know I did. But I got scared and threw the ghost tracker at it.
Must have been a pretty shitty throw, given that the ghost tracker is at your own feet. Meanwhile, out in the surprisingly well-lit woods, Carrie finds the creature from the end of Evil Dead? I mean, that can't possibly be right, but that would make everything a lot more interesting. No, what she actually finds is the bracelet from the story, perfectly sitting on the ground at her feet, despite having been in the woods for at least a few decades. And what do we all say to that, audience?
Bullshit!
Back at Grandma's house, we learned the little girl was actually Grandma Lenny, to which I express a loud and annoyed no duh. Attempting the most obvious happy ending trope, the kids try selling the bracelet, expecting it to sell for $300,000 in less than 24 hours. But surprise, surprise, it doesn't work. Which actually, I guess, given this film, is actually the first surprising thing that's happened. I mean, it's almost as surprising as when they kill off Grandma Lenny.
Mom. Mama, wake up.
Is she going to be okay?
They think so. Looks like she just fainted.
Really, movie? Because the whole way you set that up, that looked like she died. Also, what was the point of having her faint? It doesn't add anything. You literally created tension to a scene that was already tense. Back at their actual home, the bowl-cut kid is apparently hitting puberty.
That was Mom. She said Grandma's going to be fine.
Because seriously, he has no reason to be crying. She is fine. Well, it turns out that the crazy old man is not as crazy as we thought.
Well, I'll be.
What is it?
That bracelet. It belonged to the Queen.
Sure, Gus.
It did. Didn't I tell you about the time I met the Queen? I shook her hand. I'll never forget it. That's her bracelet.
And here, once again, we have the film not adding up in its own continuity as, according to the webpage, it was stolen in 1849, making the old guy somewhere close to 200 years old, since he claimed he shook the Queen's hand. The page uses an American dollar symbol, but then says pounds after it, which is a weird mixing up of currencies there. It's valued at exactly the amount they need, despite being way more likely to be in the millions of dollars range, given its historic value. And you're saying that the guy who had it, for some reason, gave it to a random nurse because she was sad she didn't have a present for her daughter. I mean, what the hell, movie? That'd be like he's suddenly saying that the old man who has been in every one of those cafe scenes where they know they need $300,000 suddenly said he has $300,000.
Hey, I'll buy it.
Right, Gus.
I'm serious, and I have the money to pay for it.
Really?
Yeah, at my home across town.
Are you kidding? That hurt like... Oh, god damn it. Really? A ghost? No. Gotta focus on the review. That's the more important thing here. It's like my grandmother always said, focus on the movie first, your incorporeal nature second. I mean, are you serious, movie? The way to solve their problem has been sitting in the shop for 3 weeks, obviously hearing about their trouble, and has never once said how he could help. I mean, come on, not even the room's plot points were this idiotic. No, wait, yes they were. Not even their characters, though, were that stupid. No, they were. Well, at least no character had to be dubbed over because you couldn't understand a word they were saying. Holy crap, this movie really is the kids' film's version of The Room. So why the fuck was I the one who got shot? Everyone rushes to the bank where the clerk is literally counting down till the end.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6...
Which is coincidental because that's the same thing I've been doing throughout the entire movie. Everything begins to wrap up as they get to keep the shop. Mr. Proctor is arrested by the real IRS for tax evasion because Natalie tipped them off. Apparently she's an accountant as well as a hacker. And the movie ends without a single sighting of a ghost that every character swears to be real. So now we ask a question. What the hell was this movie? The plot described on the back of the box and the fact that the film is called The Ghost Club would obviously conjure many thoughts of what this film might be about. But somehow I doubt that anyone would think they were getting a script that would have been rejected in the 80s for being too cliché. The characters, for the most part, are simply cardboard cutouts, and at other times, like with Natalie, they're apparently skilled at everything under the sun. Or defy the laws of physics, like Chris. It does make me wonder why they have a nerd stereotype as well, when he does nothing for the plot. His inventions don't work, their attempt at character development for him is simply he can talk to Carrie without stuttering, which is barely ever brought up, as if they forgot to have a romantic subplot. And at the end of the day, it's not like any other characters develop, which when you've got an ensemble cast is kind of important. Not helped at all is the fact that most of the actors here just aren't that good. Whether it was bad direction or simply the director rounded up some kids at the park, I don't know. But when the actors aren't really reacting to anything strongly, when they should be in that situation, it's kind of hard to root or empathise with them. The terrible editing and camera work adds to all this as well, as there are countless long, dull shots which could easily have been removed, or at the very least cut down, reducing the runtime to a more tolerable hour, alongside a fair few scenes which also aren't needed, mainly because they're either repetitive or dull. This is alongside actors that seem to constantly have their creepy smiling heads filling the screen, while the camera works to try and make things that aren't scary, scary. I mean, seriously, there's only so many times you can hear the wind and think it's an actual ghost. So all I can assume is that the director behind this just truly didn't care, and was willing to crap out this movie despite the fact that even an amateur could have seen where all of this falls down. Now, of course, one of the actors would go on to better things, as the girl who plays Carrie, Britt Robertson, would end up in much more successful films, eventually being the lead character in Tomorrowland. Which is understandable because in some scenes she does show some talent, but it's about 70% bad to 30% that's good. But for now, that's it for this train wreck of a film. Once again, this epitomises what cheap family films can get away with under the guise of being for kids, and the less we accept it, the better. So I've been Tyas, this has been Faulty Family Films, and remember, if we wouldn't accept it in our movies, kids shouldn't have to accept it in theirs. And now I've got to go make a few phone calls and get this sorted out for next week. Hey, do you hate terrible family films as much as I do? So much so that you accidentally turn yourself into a ghost while you're talking about one of them? Well, if you do, then why not support this show on Patreon and help me continue talking about some of these terrible films and showing the world just what gets brought out under the guise of the family film genre. Or you can support the show in other ways. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter and the links below, or you can subscribe here on YouTube and like the video and comment, thus helping the numbers and get more people to see it. However you choose to support the show, however, I thank